Welcome and thank you for joining me. The timestamps, as always, in the description box. Let's get to our stories. Story number 1. Opie writes, Firstly, I have told my wife what's happening since day 1. Let me make that clear. So my 34 male, wife 32 female, is out of town for a few weeks. We're healthy, we're happy, our relationship is great. A few days after my wife leaves, I'm taking a smoke outside my apartment complex and I'm approached by a woman, female, don't know her age. She asks if I live in the building and I say yeah, and she said she's seen me around and was wondering. We've been there less than a year, and she said she just moved in, and she asked how I like the place. I immediately mentioned my wife and I moved in about a year ago too. It turns out she came from the same city we just moved from, and she works in the same industry as us. I keep mentioning my wife. She is my world. And she asked if she's inside, and I said nah, she's out of town for a bit. I know, wait for it. And she keeps saying she's never seen her around or me with anyone, and asks what she looks like. And I show her a photo and her response is, quote, she's pretty, unquote. Eventually the neighbor asks for some help with some work in our field. And I said sure, she can message me for advice, and we exchange numbers. Yes, I'm getting there. I tell her I need to call my wife, so I'm heading back in. And as we're saying goodbye, she offhand asked me if I know any single people in the area and if I could help her out, and I told her no and thought that was weird. Now, flirting has always gone over my head. Even my wife took several tries to get my attention when we were courting. And it was after I got back inside, I realized I gave my number to a woman who was flirting with me. So when my wife called me, I told her the entire story. She laughed because she knows I'm a dummy and wouldn't do anything. She said it seemed harmless, and I've told her I'm married, so she'll probably back off. Plus, both my wife and I get flirted with all the time. We are an attractive couple, so it's common for us to get flirted with despite the wedding rings, but neither of us would ever do anything. So it's been about a week, and my neighbor keeps messaging me at night, asking what I'm doing, talking about how much she misses home, yada yada, asking how my, quote, girlfriend, unquote, is doing. Yep, not wife, girlfriend. I either don't respond at all or I've just messaged a single line like you could go out to this place and meet people for work and networking or something like that. Never setting up anything with me, always saying I'm on the phone with my wife even if I'm not, and keeping it strictly business. The other night she was really spamming me with messages. Again, quote, how is your girlfriend, unquote, which I ignored, and then eventually asked me if I had time to talk tonight. And before she had a chance to call, because absolutely I expected her to try to call me, I told her, no, I'm waiting for my wife to call. And she responds with something like, quote, right, your woman comes first, unquote. And I have just ignored her since then. My wife called that night and I told her how this is getting out of hand, and am I crazy or is she really trying to sleep with me? And my wife agreed that is exactly what she is doing. I'm a tall, good-looking guy in good shape, and I'm currently sitting at home alone. My wife said she's trying to get into our bed while she is away. I told her that isn't happening, and I'm going to block this neighbor, and we agreed this wasn't harmless. Now it's awkward because this isn't a big complex, and I know I'll run into her. She doesn't know what apartment I'm in. Thank goodness. And I'm going to block her number. And I don't know how to handle this if I bump into her, because she seems clingy and she doesn't seem to care. She knows I'm married. All I do is talk about my wife. I've dismissed anything she asks me that is personal. It was my mistake to give her my number. I'm aware of that. But now, how do I handle this? And here's Opie's update. Wow, this blew up. So yeah, she messaged me again asking if I wanted to talk tonight. I told her no. And I told her upfront I'm not comfortable with it, and my wife isn't either. I sent a pretty lengthy message and we went back and forth. I basically told her how inappropriate it was to ask personal questions like that, because we don't know each other, and I only exchanged numbers because you said you wanted advice on work, and we're in the same field, and you're a new neighbor, and I was being friendly, but you're overstepping. I said, you keep dismissing my wife, not my girlfriend, my wife. Like she isn't real and our marriage isn't the most important thing in my life. She denied it, said she was lonely and just wanted someone to talk to, and that she'd love to meet my wife too, yada yada. I said, I've met you once. I'm not your friend, and these are not things two strangers talk about. These are questions you ask when you're interested in someone, and I've been telling my wife all of this from day one, and neither of us is happy about it. That's as easy as I can summarize the conversation. I ended it by saying, I hope you find something out there for you, but I'm not it. And if we bump into each other, I don't want us to talk. She said okay and sorry, and I did block her number. Now we'll see if she tries anything if I see her again. But based on the advice I've been given in the comments, I made it clear to her where I stand. Well, OP, I think that is the end of it, and she's not going to bother you anymore. But I wouldn't feel bad if I were you, because this kind of thing happens. There are those people that will immediately back off when they know you are in a relationship and they won't bother you anymore. Then there are also those people that will just keep on and on and on. You said you sent her a lengthy message and the two of you went back and forth when you told her that you're not interested in all of this. My advice in a situation like this is keep it short. Just say you're not interested, you're married, you're in a relationship, whatever, you enjoy being single, whatever it is. Keep it short, no explanations needed. Someone who can't respect that is already showing you that they don't care about your boundaries and they'll keep pushing and pushing. So tell them straight out you're not interested, block and continue with your life. Let's move on to story number 2. Opie writes, be aware English is not my first language, so there might be incoherent sentences. Let me know if I need to clear anything up. I'm in this dilemma and I need help to think clearly. My significant other, 31 female, and I, 33 male, have been together for 2.5 years now. When she was younger, 17, 19, she used to visit her cousin that lived 6 hours away and ended up hooking up with a friend of her cousin's brother. She slept with him a couple of times. From what I know, the guy has been single most of his life and is working in remote locations, so he's always moving across the country. The guy still keeps in touch with her, texting her 2 to 3 times a year, asking what she's up to and that he was thinking about her. I learned a while ago that just before being with me, she exchanged nudes with him. Even though I'm not too excited about it, I'm telling myself that it was in her right and she could do whatever she wants when she's single. A year ago, he told her he was coming to town for a hockey tournament and wanted to see her. I asked her how she felt about it, and she said that he is an old friend and she would enjoy knowing what he was up to. But when I say, quote, what does he say to you when you guys keep in touch? Do you guys have any deep conversations, unquote? She says that it's always the same. He's working hard and making good money, but he's far from everything. I ended up agreeing for her to see him, just to meet the guy, shake his hand, and have an opinion about him. We all met in the arena where he was playing. I shook his hand and left for about an hour, because I had errands to do in that area and just didn't feel good staying there. From what I saw, he's a good-looking guy that my SO seems to enjoy looking at. I don't know why, but I can tell by her demeanor. And she was honest enough to tell me she still finds him good-looking. In that hour, they didn't have any deep conversations. All I know is that he said he was doing coke in his hotel room the day before with his teammates and felt a bit hungover. What I'm not comfortable with is that the guy is clearly into her. After I dropped her off, he said to her that I must be a good guy and that he would have never done the same, letting his girlfriend meet with a guy she hooked up with. He also said that she was, quote, top-notch, unquote. And when she left, he kissed her on the forehead, from what she told me. We tried to be completely transparent with each other. Around 6 months ago, without asking if we were still with each other, he texted her that he was at a friend's wedding and would have loved for her to be his date. And then, last week, he told her he was going to the same tournament again and would love to have dinner and a beer with her and me. But, quote, selfishly, unquote, wanted to see her. I don't really believe in forbidding your significant other to do anything, but I'm just not feeling it. She said that for her, it's to entertain a long-lasting relationship and to get news from him. I do trust her, but I just don't trust him. I get that it must feel nice for her to have somebody interested in you, maybe flirt a little, but I feel like this guy's endgame goes further than that. I've been cheated before, and I just see too many red flags here. I need advice. Edit. With the feedback I've received so far, I feel way more confident that my point is valid and that her relationship with this guy is weird. First, I did say that I find it odd that she needs to specify that the awkwardness is coming only from me, and that's why they can't see each other. It creates a division between us, and that's not what couples are supposed to do. We both have to agree that this is not a normal situation, and that we are both agreeing with the decision. I also mentioned that this guy can't be an old friend, since they had an intimate past and they exchanged nudes not so long ago. You don't do that with a friend. She's claiming that this guy is not an old flame that she's trying to keep alive when I brought it up. So I said, quote, if he's not a flame you're trying to keep alive and not an old friend, what is this guy for you? Unquote. She said she needed time to think about it. I'll keep you guys posted whenever I have an answer. And here's OP's update. Okay, this should be my last update. I was waiting for an answer all night yesterday without really getting one. To be frank, something tragic happened in our neighborhood yesterday and it distracted us from the issue. But still, I let her know that I didn't feel comfortable sleeping in the same bed as her before getting a clear answer. Woke up the next day without really sleeping and we resumed the conversation. Her point was that I'm overthinking it because she has no desire for him. She was just curious to see what is going on with him and was willing to go with me or a friend of hers if that made me more comfortable. She said that in her mind, nothing can possibly happen since she's not into him, even if she thinks he looks good. In her eyes, I was spending too much energy on a guy that didn't mean much to her. I pointed out again that I do trust her, but that this guy, with everything that he said and did, has no respect for me or my relationship with her. I also mentioned that if we don't deal with this now, this issue will resurface each year he comes around. That if she really thought that this guy didn't mean anything, she wouldn't have any issue mentioning that the decision comes from us, since we both agree that his behavior is unacceptable. And I'm not sure if it's the fact that I was intransigent or the way I formulated my argument, but she just said, quote, you know what, you're right. I'll write to him and say that it's a common decision, unquote. She said that he's always been kind to her, but that she didn't totally realize how disrespectful he was towards me. And if we want to be all in, anything disrespectful towards me is also disrespectful to her. So things have been pretty much good until then, and I feel like we've addressed the elephant in the room. Thank you guys for helping me see clearly, and I hope I never talk to you again. Well, OP, I hope so too. I hope this is the end of the situation and that this guy, when he pops up again, your girlfriend is not going to bother with him and it's not going to be an issue in the relationship anymore. I've got a feeling this guy has got a girl in every town and every city he goes to. There is somebody he starts messaging. And on to story number 3. OP writes, we have been in a relationship for 3.5 years now, and to be honest, never really celebrated Valentine's Day before. It was not something too important for me, even though I'd sometimes still wished he'd bring me flowers. Haha. Anyway, he started talking with an old school friend of his from 15 years ago. Only heaven knows why the heck he texted her. They share the same love for Marvel and DC, something I'm not really into. Now they came up with the idea to meet up on Valentine's Day. He even reserved a table in some restaurant for them. When I saw the reservation, we share an email account, and the email with the reservation popped up. I was so happy, thinking we'd go out, just for my hopes being crushed as he announced he'll go with that school friend of his. I know he can have female friends, but why does it still hurt so much? I don't know, maybe I'm just overreacting. And here's OP's update. I confronted him about it after I went for a walk to get my thoughts sorted out. He kept telling me it was just a friend, and even if it end up having feelings for her, we'll find a solution. My solution to it was ending the relationship. I'm worth more than that and deserve better. I'm better off being single and enjoying my life. Thank you all for also opening my eyes and help me understand I'm not just overreacting. I hope for a better guy to come who takes me out on Valentine's days. It hurts a lot right now though, but I try to be positive that it's all going to be better soon. Well, that's the spirit, Opie. Look to the future. Don't let this drag you down. For him to treat you like this after 3.5 years, and then also to tell you, well, if he does have feelings for her eventually, you'll find a solution. I mean, what does that mean? You'll find a solution. And definitely you were not overreacting, because who takes another woman out on Valentine's Day? If this isn't the way the relationship works, something that was agreed to, that it's an open relationship or whatever, why take another woman out and treat her to dinner at a restaurant on Valentine's Day while you're sitting at home? He's out with her. It's just crazy. So that's it for this edition. I thank you so very much for listening. Please consider subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.